You didn't think it would hit this hard. At first, it was quiet, just a weird stillness. You told your friends, I'm good. You told yourself, she's doing what she needs to do. You went to the gym, you went back to work. You distracted yourself with podcasts, music, scrolling. You said the words you've even trained to say, it is what it is. But somewhere around day 7, maybe day 21, something started to shift. The silence got louder. The distractions started to fail. And when you woke up one morning, she wasn't just gone from your life. She was in your bones, in your chest, in your memory, like a song that plays even when there's no sound. And the pain, it didn't come like a flood. It came like a quiet, unrelenting tide. Slow, deep, heavy. And you realize you're falling apart, but not publicly. No one knows, because you're still smiling, still replying, all good, when someone checks in. Still showing up to the world like a man who's moved on. But you haven't, not even close. That's what this is about. Not her, not the breakup, not even heartbreak. This is about why you always fall harder. Why love hits you deeper. Why, even when you try to be logical, practical, detached, you still get wrecked when she walks away. But no one ever warned you about it. No one ever told you that men carry love differently. That for most of us, love becomes the only safe place we allow our full self to be seen. So when it disappears, it doesn't just hurt, it shatters us. Not because we're weak, but because we put everything we had into that one space. You were probably taught, directly or indirectly, to suppress emotion, to be a man, to stay calm, stay collected, stay strong. So you did. You kept the grief quiet. You never learned how to fully process sadness, or confusion, or insecurity. And the only time you let yourself feel anything ... was with her. When you laughed with her, touched her, and maybe she didn't even know that. Maybe she thought you'd be fine. Maybe she walked away thinking he'll move on quick. He didn't say much. He didn't cry, didn't chase. But what she didn't see was the ocean inside your chest, raging beneath the surface. What she didn't see was how long it takes for men to start feeling what has already happened. And that's the difference no one talks about. Most women grieve immediately. They cry, they journal, they process. Men, we delay it. We hold it. We tell ourselves it wasn't that serious. We bury it in productivity and pride. Until one night, it all comes back. Her laugh, her silence, her scent on the pillow that still hasn't faded. And you realize, I'm not over this. I'm not okay. I haven't even started to let go. This is what no one tells you. You fall harder because you fall later. You don't process as it happens. You survive it. And when survival ends, grief begins. And when it hits, it's not a tear or a moment. It's a full body weight, okay? Like your chest is carrying a truth too heavy to speak. And the worst part, you feel like you can't say it. Not to your boys, not to your family, not to her. Because we live in a world where a man's heartbreak is either mocked or ignored. So you carry it like a secret. You joke, you say you're chilling, you post something vague, but behind every laugh is a wound. And behind that wound is a version of you that just wanted to be loved fully. Finally, and without having to earn it through silence. You always fall harder because you've been conditioned to be strong everywhere else. So, when you finally give someone your softness and they leave, it doesn't feel like just a loss. It feels like proof that vulnerability is dangerous and that can scar you for years. So you retreat, you build new armor. You say, never again. But what you really mean is, I can't survive being that open and that unseen ever again. But let me tell you something you've probably never heard. You weren't too much. You weren't too sensitive. You weren't naive for loving that deeply. You were brave, because in a world that tells men to feel less, you allowed yourself to feel more. And yes, it hurt. It destroyed something in you. But it also revealed something sacred. You are capable of real love, of presence, of depth. And that means, with time, you can build something real again, not by loving less, but by healing first. Let's talk about it. Not the breakup, but the delay. The strange pause between the end and the collapse. The space where everyone else seems to move on. You're still numb. You're still replaying the same conversation. Still checking if she watched your story. Still scanning your memory for what you missed. And maybe that's what confuses people, because you looked fine. You were functioning. You were joking again, okay? But grief doesn't always arrive on time, especially not for men. Because here's what nobody taught you. You were trained to delay emotion. You weren't raised to feel in real time. You were raised to manage, to assess, to suppress. Don't cry. Be strong. You're a man. Handle it. And so, you learned how to push things down so well, it became automatic. You learned how to keep your hands busy while your heart bled in silence. You learned how to hold pain in your chest like a secret you weren't allowed to name. When she left or drifted, you didn't cry. Not right away. You didn't fall apart. Not publicly. You just adjusted. You reorganized your routines. You kept busy. You convinced yourself it was just a phase. But grief was waiting. It always does. And when it finally hits, it's heavy, because you've been holding it in so long it has nowhere else to go. You always fall harder, because you fall last. You fall when the silence becomes unbearable. When the world stops checking in, when she's already found someone new, or at least found closure, and you're just now feeling what she felt weeks ago. And that delay, it doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you've never been taught how to care for yourself. It's only others, especially her. That's the part no one tells you. You cared too much, but only when it was safe. And once it ended, all the feelings you had been avoiding suddenly showed up. Loud, unfiltered, and sharp. That's why you can't sleep. That's why your chest feels tight for no reason. That's why her name still echoes, even when you're with someone else. And it's not just about missing her. It's about missing the space you had with her. The one place where you allowed yourself to be soft, to be emotional, to feel human. You were never taught to bring that part of yourself into other areas of your life. So you poured it all into one person. Hey, and when she left, it wasn't just a breakup. It felt like an identity collapse. But hear this, that collapse is not the end. It's the invitation. It's the beginning of a new kind of strength. It's one that doesn't come from burying your feelings. It's one that comes from actually feeling them. It's from letting the grief move through you instead of trapping it inside. Because trapped pain turns into performance, into bitterness, into numbness. But felt pain, it turns into wisdom, into presence, into depth. You don't need to man up. You need to wake up to the reality that emotions don't make you weak. They make you real. And real men don't heal by pretending nothing happened. They heal by telling the truth. So tell it, even if it's just to yourself. Say it out loud if you have to. I loved her. She hurt me. I missed the way she made me feel seen. I gave more than I knew how to give. I'm grieving the version of me I only allowed to exist in her presence. I want to feel again, but without falling apart. That's not weakness. That's awareness. That's what healing begins to look like. Not some inspirational quote on your feed, okay? But you, sitting with your pain, not trying to fix it, just feeling it, fully, until it's no longer something you hide from, but something you've walked through. You always fall harder, not because you're broken, but because no one ever taught you how to land. But you're learning now. Now that you've let yourself feel it, now that the grief has a voice, now that the silence has been broken, something begins to shift. Not fast, not dramatically, subtle, like the way winter starts to melt before spring ever really arrives. Start noticing moments of peace, not because it doesn't still hurt, because you're no longer hiding from it. And when you stop hiding from your pain, it loses its grip. This is where the rebuilding begins. Not into someone harder, not into someone who doesn't care anymore, but into someone stronger, because he finally knows who he is when everything else is stripped away. See, most men think healing means not feeling that to love again, you have to be more guarded, less emotional, more distant, okay? That you have to build walls and set rules and keep your heart on a leash. But you've already tried that. You've already done the disappearing act, the cold detachment, the I'll never feel this again mindset. And you know it doesn't work. It just turns you into a ghost, half present, half afraid. So let's do something different. Let's talk about how to love again without losing yourself. It starts with remembering this. You are allowed to care. You are allowed to feel deeply, but now you care with awareness. You feel with boundaries. You give without abandoning yourself. That's the shift. That's what emotional maturity actually is. Not less emotion, just more structure around it. 'Cause the problem wasn't that you gave too much, okay? The problem was that you gave it all without first making sure you were rooted. You made her the home for every part of you that didn't feel safe anywhere else. But no one can carry that. No one should. That's not intimacy. That's emotional outsourcing. So, from now on, you become your own anchor. You become the space where your truth lives, not her. You can still open your heart, still love fully. But now, your identity doesn't evaporate the moment you fall. You stay you. You stay centered. You stay grounded. It's what makes love sustainable. And when you meet someone again, and you will notice something is different. You won't rush. You won't pour. You won't try to impress or win or explain. You'll just be fully present. Not because you're performing, but because you're finally whole. And she'll feel that. She'll feel that you're not there to be saved. Not there to be completed. You're there because you choose to be. And that's what changes everything. It's because real connection isn't built on dependency. It's built on presence. And presence only comes when you're not afraid of losing it all. When you know that, even if she leaves, even if it doesn't work, even if it breaks again, you won't break with it. You'll grieve, yes. You'll feel, but you won't disappear because you've done the work. You've sat in the fire. You've learned how to hold your heart, and now you know how to protect it without closing it. This is what the world doesn't teach men. That strength doesn't mean shutting down. It means staying open without collapsing. That masculinity isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to feel deeply without becoming unstable. Okay? That heartbreak isn't proof you were wrong to love. It's proof you were brave enough to try. You always fell harder because you were never taught how to land. But now you're learning. You're building emotional legs. You're walking again, slower this time, steadier, more aware of where your weight is going. And when the next love comes, if it comes, you won't fall. You'll stand, okay, and you'll meet her there. So now you know. It was never about being weak. It was never about being too much. You weren't crazy for feeling that deeply, for hurting that long. You weren't Esau for missing her when everyone else told you to just get over it. You weren't broken. You were just never given permission to feel the way you actually feel. You were taught how to hold things in, how to move forward with pain buried under silence. And that kind of silence doesn't heal. It grows heavier. But now, something's lighter. Maybe not everything. Maybe the nights still ache. Maybe her name still lingers in the corners of your mind. But you're not chasing her anymore. You're not waiting for closure. You're not telling yourself stories just to avoid sitting with the truth. Because now, you can sit in the truth, and it doesn't destroy you. That's the shift. You're no longer falling. You're standing. It's not because the pain is gone, but because you are here, finally, fully. You've walked through your grief without turning it into shame. You've let yourself cry, even if no one saw. You've screamed in silence. You've whispered her name into your own hands just to feel the echo. And now you're standing. Not because you've moved on, but because you've moved into yourself. It's no longer a prison. It's peace. Maybe that S, the most important love you'll ever find. The love that lives here, not in her hands, not in her words. From wholeness, from I see me, and that's enough. But in the quiet way you hold yourself when no one's looking. The way you make coffee in the morning without hoping she texts. The way you breathe through memories that used to break you. The way you forgive yourself for loving so hard, for staying too long, for giving too much. Because now you know you weren't wrong for loving. You just didn't know how to love yourself at the same time. But now you do. Now you walk slower. Now you look people in the eye a little longer before giving them your energy. Now your yes means something, and your silence. You'll love again if you choose to. But it'll be different, not desperate, not from emptiness, not from a place of please see me, but from stillness. So if no one has told you this before, let this be the moment. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to care. You are allowed to cry. You are allowed to not move on quickly. You are allowed to heal in your own way. You are allowed to still miss her and not go back. You are allowed to love again, but only when you're ready. Because now you understand something men are rarely told. Real strength isn't how fast you move on. Real strength is how honestly you come back to yourself. Hey, you have. Right here, right now. Quiet, whole enough.